Hi, I'm Elysia Stobbe, your Mortgage Millions mentor, and I'm so excited to bring you this week's focus on our sales training and to get right down to the magic with the psychology behind the sales. Here's my partner, Rocco.
Hey, Alicia, how you doing today?
Awesome. I'm pumped.
March Madness. It seems like we got, 2/3 of the way through, a little bit more than that, and it'll be over before we know it. And what really where we wanted to go for this week is if you take a step back to where we left off from last week. I think we started to tease it out a little bit, where we were talking about the power of engagement, communicating one-on-one with a potential prospect or a referral partner, and using the right resources to be able to do that. And one of the things that we've talked about a bunch is the power of questions, right? And so we've put together what we call like a magical little survey to engage, whether it be a potential buyer or a realtor and a few other people. And we've conjured up these questions. And really what today's talk is about is the power of questions and how important they are. Science and psychology proves out time and time again that questions are really, really important when it comes to the power of influence. But where people will get stuck at sometimes is all questions are not the same, meaning the quality of the questions and how those questions are asked in a sequence can sometimes either hinder or help you progress in a relationship with somebody or ultimately get to a closed deal. So I know you spent some time going through the surveys there that we created. And in the end of this, we'll show people what some of that stuff looks like. You can, if you're watching this video, if you're watching it free on social media, you can maybe jot down and steal some of those questions, but ultimately we'll give you an opportunity to get access to this stuff in a powerful tool that you'll be able to use. For those that are already inside of our app, you know what we're talking about. But let's get started here. First thing is why do we think questions are important? Well, I want to start really with a couple quick examples. There has actually been research studies done that track voters. And these research studies suggest that when somebody is a registered voter, they're less likely to vote if somebody doesn't ask them if they're going to vote, right? Same thing when it comes to donating blood and 100 other examples. And really, what does that tell us? That questions prompt the brain to contemplate a behavior, which then enhances the probability that it will actually be acted upon. And it helps buyers discover, solidify, and actually change their thoughts. Now, that's some powerful information. When you're starting from scratch with a brand new potential contact, and we talked before about harvesting contacts and why you need to have them, and that's the easy part. Now we're getting into some of the next steps on how you develop a deeper relationship with them. So, Elysia, with you being the expert in the industry when it comes to the mortgage world, how important do you think questions are versus just going in and shoving information at somebody?
Yeah, it's so important to ask a question. Ask the better quality question you ask, not only the better answer you'll receive, but that, like you were saying, it not only does it create, I think, for a dialogue, but also you're prompting the other person to think. And that's the amazing part is, I mean, it's a little bit of mind magic right there, right? Because you planted that seed. And what I love about it also, it's so congruent with me because it's in a genuine, sincere way.
Yeah. We never want to get away from authenticity as being the main thing. So here's the thing is that you want to be able to direct the mind to some degree, and it has an influential outcome. And I mean, I one of the things I was talking about the voting thing, but I actually also read something recently where they said that, and this probably could relate to your industry to some degree, that when as simple as asking somebody if they intend to buy a car in the next 6 months, increase the likelihood of somebody buying a car by like 45% or some, astronomical number that you just be like, what? So when it comes to an industry that seems like people in the modern society that we live in, they change their living quarters as much as they change their automobiles. Sometimes it seems like, right? But you can certainly inspire people to make some of those changes a little bit quicker just by asking them those simple questions. So some of the survey questions will actually start to direct the mind of your contacts, your prospects, and your referral partners. But also at the same time, you're not just trying to gain influence from them. At the same time, you're also trying to gain an understanding of them. And if I was to just try and push you out a bunch of information about how great that I am without learning a little bit about you first, I don't really know how to tailor the information that I want to send to you, right? Because every individual on that, and again, we go back a couple of weeks, we asked you to start harvesting a database, loading new people into your marketable universe on a daily basis. But that's not just so we can blast everybody with a piece of information that says, come see me, I'm the best that there is. It's so you can start engaging people and find out what's unique about them, so you can actually tailor some of your information to that. And going back to your point about authenticity, Elysia, it just matters obviously so much, right? To be able to not just have a series of questions that we ask somebody so we feel like we can direct them, but at the same time so we can actually learn what's important to them, okay? Once we get to that point, we know that and this kind of goes back to what I was saying before, not only can we influence future behaviors, but when we ask somebody a question, we can also get them to the mind can only think about one thing at a time, right? And if
There's
we
been
are,
so many, just to jump in, there's been
no,
so
please.
many studies lately about multitasking and that it just doesn't work. Everybody is finally coming back to focus, which I've been talking about for a long time. Focus and presence. And it's exactly what you said. That, I mean, really, that mind can focus on one thing. The other stuff all becomes noise.
And here's the example of it, right? Because the mind can only focus on one single idea. If I was to ask you the question right now, let's just play a quick game. What color is your house? All right.
Yellow. Yeah.
And
okay.
Whatever the color is, like, I just basically hijacked your thought process.
Yes, I answered right away. Yeah.
Your brain can't think of anything else when it's contemplating a question, right? So when you are engaged with somebody, and here's why that matters so much. When you are sitting down with somebody and you are presenting an idea, and this has happened to me so many times, especially earlier in my career before I could figure this out. I used to have some really great sales presentations, Elysia, and I'm going through this stuff and the person's looking at me and I feel like we're in rapport and, we got it, it's going smooth. And really what I come to learn is that I had no idea most of the time if they were actually thinking about what I was presenting to them, right? Because I was telling them stuff. I didn't really ask them, but if I was asking more questions in my brilliant presentation, then it's keeping their focus on me because they have no choice. I hijacked their brain that way. That's totally different. When you can commandeer somebody's attention like that, what winds up happening also is that will increase trust that they have in you because they're eliminating other things. They're not distracted. And that's obviously a big part of influence as well. So I don't know if you ever, I'm sure, Elysia, you just came out of the womb and you got into sales and you were perfect from the gate and didn't make any of those mistakes that I made, right?
I've made tons of mistakes. That's why I always say, learn from me what I figured out works and learn from my mistakes and don't do those, right? We're all human. So, but I agree. I mean, totally on the questions, because when you're engaging with somebody, the more questions you ask them subliminally, the more they like you because you're paying attention to them and you've hijacked their brain.
All right. And now I'm going to go a little more scientific. Again, a little more psychology here. And we've only got a couple minutes left, but when we close some of this stuff out, you're going to love the last couple pieces of information. But I want you to write this phrase down if you're watching this right now and try and implant it into your mind. It's called the social penetration theory. And that really is a process that describes how the human brain is actually hardwired to disclose information in layers, like peeling back the onion layer, if that makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. So now when we go to do that, the best way to actually construct questions is to mirror how the brain reveals information, not necessarily. And again, it happens in layers. So I've watched a lot of sales trainers over the years where they'll say, well, you've got qualify questions, you have, closing questions, you have this and that. And all those types of categories of questions, like if you think about it, they're really designed on selling behaviors, not necessarily how the buyer's brain potentially reveals information. So the focus is on the wrong person in those categories of questions. And going back to what you were saying before about how the mind can't focus on things like multitasking is dead. if I was to give you 7 categories of questions, think about the mental jump that your mind has to make. All right, I just asked her this question. Now I'm going to ask her this question, right? And you're going from category to category. You're forgetting about the person who's really there that you're trying to be able to convey that information to. So the social penetration theory is different. It's a natural process, which is very authentic. And basically what you do is you start to peel back one layer at a time till you get to the end. And what we want to first start out with is preliminary questions, level 1 questions. And all it does is it gives you the chance to open up a topic by getting the person you're engaged with to reveal different thoughts, facts, behaviors, or even situations that they might be involved in, depending on the relationship that you have with them. But they're rudimentary questions. So when I asked Elysia what the color of her house was, for example, that's a level 1 question. It's very, very basic. And even though I've directed her mind, that does not mean I'm going to automatically win over influence because I've gotten her to think about a specific topic, right? There's not much influence behind that. I might have gotten her attention for a second, but where do we go from there? And the problem is the vast majority of people, when it comes to asking questions, will stop at those level 1 questions. Like, what was it the Columbo guy? He's like, the facts, man, just the facts.
Yeah.
Just give me the facts, right? It's almost like sometimes going into a doctor's office and, imagine they just say, well, my arm hurts, and boom, they just spit out a prescription for you without doing any further diagnostic. It doesn't work that way. It's a way to get to the table, but it's not going to keep you there long term. So the next level 2 from there, and this is where the magic starts to happen. Stay with me on this. If I were to ask a level 2 question, it gives me the opportunity to get to the next level where you'll actually start to state an opinion, right? And it starts to reveal a little bit of a different behavior. It's vital because it gets you to think through that first level question, right? So if we stay with this simple example of what color is your house, and I say, what actually, if you had a preference, would you have a different color house? Right? And why would that be? So now I'm in this second level area, and what's happening is that, okay, you're thinking, well, here's my opinion about this. You're giving them a chance to state why their mind works the way it does. They are actually now presenting back to you, and you're taking notes, or you're mentally taking notes, whatever the case may be. But what winds up happening there for sure is that inside of their brain, there's activity that lights up in their reward center. When we get to give our opinion or state something that we have strong belief in, that gives us a quick light up, a quick boost of serotonin. And at the same time, they're like, wow, this person really understands me, right? You follow, Elysia, again, we talked a little bit before we hit the record button about some of this stuff. Your thoughts on this?
Well, yes, anytime somebody has the stage, if you will, right? They get that boost of serotonin, and their significance is fed a little bit. So it's a stacking, right? Go ahead. Sorry, it's a stacking.
They're thinking through, like, so it's like, okay, well, here I gathered this basic piece of intel from you, and now I'm asking you to elaborate a little bit more on it. Give me a little bit more on top of that. Oh, why? That's interesting, right? And you just take them down to the next level. And then this last level 3, it's simple. We want to get to the dominant buying motive, right? And this is where we are really going to uncover. It's going to be the revealing information when we ask these types of questions. You're going to get the emotional reason why somebody's going to do business with you, why they're going to buy from you, why they're going to refer you, or everything else. It's their dominant buying motivator, which is either one of 2 things. Elysia, what are those one of 2 things?
Oh, the dominant buying motivator, pain or pleasure.
That's it.
Oh, it's towards pleasure or away from pain. That is those 2. That's it. The choices.
And because we've asked level 2 in questions, we've got them. Here's the key: emotionally involved, right? We do things based on emotion, but we justify them with logic.
Always.
So there is logic. There is no such thing as a logical purchase. I promise there isn't. Now, you can have a very logical person, but he has an impulse first that says why I want to do it. And then they will maybe put a little bit more heavy on justifying it with logic. Whereas the
Exactly.
emotional person says, I don't really care. I'm just buying it on emotion, and they know, right?
Yep.
But that's the way that it goes. So, a third level question, and we'll walk through this here in a second with a quick example. But the idea is that once you get them to disclose that information, it does, again, it increases, it says, wow, that person knows me. They get me, right? Because you spent the time there. Now, unfortunately, Elysia and myself can't sit with you in every single sit down conversation that you have with a prospect. All right. So, these second and third level questions, you're going to have to really formulate and study. But what we can do is we can give you a framework to start off your first level questions. And we've already done that for you. And that's where we're going to shift out here for the next couple of minutes or so. So what I am going to do, Elysia, is I'm going to log in here to the Mortgage Marketing Master app that you've created for people in the mortgage industry to find success faster. So, and I'm going to show them how we do that because, we taught people how to add there we go. All right. We taught people how to add contacts and the importance of it, and then start to reach out to connect with people. And one of the things that we've loaded in here, and we'll just play along in this resource library in the upper right-hand corner. When I tap on that, you've created a whole series of messaging sequences and ways to connect with people in all kinds of different categories. One of the most important ones, let's just pick on realtors, for example, right? Because they're highly influential to your ability to garner future business, especially in the rising rate market and everything else that might be happening out there. So if I go down a little bit here, and we talked about the connect message last week, and you can read through some of this stuff here and review it if you're not already engaged in it. But you're giving a way for people to want to have a conversation with you. And as a way to really take a step further, when you go down to what we call the engage category, there's a survey in here that you can send to a realtor that is on your list. And the way that you would do that is you would simply tap the black box there, and you could either email it, text it, or maybe you can send it to them on LinkedIn or Facebook Messenger, whatever you want to do there. But there's a little descriptor in here. It says, send this survey to your contacts to gather information that identifies their lender relationships. When your prospect completes the survey, you can find the answers in the notes section. That's very great, but it doesn't talk about the 3 levels that we just discussed there and the importance of all that. There's a descriptor in here on how the thing works. So you're getting more here, but let's open this survey up and just play along through our 3 levels of questions. Now, this survey right here, there's only a handful of questions on here, right? But I want you to know the way that these questions were written, again, it's twofold. It's the first level information. This opens up, directs the mind on a topic. So if Elysia was my realtor, or my referral realtor that I was trying to work with, and I was in the mortgage business, I would want to be able to get some of these questions answered before sitting down and meeting with her. Yes, Elysia? If I was
Absolutely. Yeah.
right. And some of these here, opinion-based, what's the most important aspect of a strong partnership with your lender? And she would answer that question. How do you prefer to be contacted? Email, phone, or text? The desired level of follow-up from your lender. So I could take any one of these questions here and let's just start with the top. Do you have a lender you're actively sending referrals to? And if Elysia says to me,
Yes.
okay, that's my level 1 question. That's about all I can get from that question right there, right? So now when I go to sit down with Elysia, because what this does, this sets up your ability to try and schedule an appointment to meet with them, have coffee, sit with them over Zoom, whatever it is that you're going to do. But when I get there, I would be able to say, Elysia, it seems to me here, thank you for taking the time to complete that little survey. I got to learn a little bit about you, and I wanted to take this meeting here with you so I could just get a deeper understanding. But one of the first things I saw is that you said the answer that yes, you actually are sending your referrals to realtors now. And I say, so tell me how you found the realtors that you're working with now. What's working with them? Why do
Oh,
you
the
work with
lenders. Yeah. So, I mean,
the lenders? Sorry.
as a realtor, I just like to give out the three cards and, let my buyers pick. And, they do an okay job. Usually they're able to close the deal.
Gotcha. Okay. So they do an okay job is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the guys is in our office, so I have a little, I feel a little obligated to, send him some of my business.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. So it's important to have somebody who's around enough and, they're showing their face. That makes
Well,
sense.
he's not always there all the time now since COVID, but our broker put him in there, so I like my broker, so.
Okay. We don't want to disappoint your broker for sure. Okay. So, well, I appreciate you sharing that with me. The other thing I wanted to ask you around that idea is that, if from a relationship standpoint of where you're at with them, what do you think he might be able to do a little bit better for you? Like, what would be the perfect scenario for you that may or may not be happening now? And maybe he's already doing all that stuff, but I'd love to learn what's really important for you in a relationship with a lender.
Yeah, so I mean, he gives me some updates. I feel like that could be better, but he's never actually asked me how I want to be updated, how I want to be communicated with. He's never actually, taken the time to find that. He just wants the deal. And then he certainly, doesn't give me any clients. And, we really haven't talked about co-marketing. So, I feel like he's falling short there.
So it sounds like being able to have a reciprocal referral relationship is important to you for sure.
Oh, that's always helpful. But I mean, really, if they could just give me some more updates. Like, I know it's hard for lenders to give realtors referrals, but yeah, I mean, if he had maybe some other co-marketing, or if I could just get, I don't feel like I don't get updates. I just would like more. And like I said, he's never taken the time to ask what I wanted. Do I want weekly updates? Do I want every other day? I don't need every other day, but you know, I
Just
don't want
being
to wait till
able
the end to
have
find
that.
out, yeah, everything's good or not. So,
All right, now here comes the third level question. Okay. So Elysia, it's again, it sounds like to me that getting these updates are really reciprocal referral relationships work great. If you had somebody that was already getting you everything that you would want in a relationship, would you ever even consider working with another lender? Or do you just strictly stick with somebody who's getting you what it is that you want? Like, why would you work with anybody else if you were getting all the information? Or would you still be inclined to obligate somebody else just because they were referred to you by your broker?
that's a good question. Well, I think I'd be open to working with somebody else besides my broker if they provided what I wanted.
Yeah. And so, from my standpoint, and then I would continue on from there with Elysia with some of the future training that we're going to get them. But what I'm really trying to do, as you can see, is some of those more discovery second level questions are just getting her to state her opinion, what she cares about. But then I want to isolate the really where I want to get to is taking those answers and just say, okay, well, why would you even consider working with somebody else who's not doing that for you now? All right. And that becomes well, I'd say maybe not the clincher, because the truth of the matter is no matter how much of this stuff you do, there's emotions that are always involved, right? So just because somebody might be following you through this process, meeting with you, they might have had, almost got into a car accident 5 minutes before they met you for coffee, or they, had to rush to get their kids off to school that day. So they're running late on things. So it's never going to go perfect. But if you don't give yourself a format and a framework to do some of this stuff, you're just going to be winging it all the time. So there's gains that happen in percentages over time when you repeat a process. Meaning, no matter how good or bad you are at this on day one, if you keep repeating this process and you do it consistently over time, you are going to get better at what you do, and your percentages will increase, right? The beautiful thing about knowing ratios is that it gives you a basis. You know how many people you potentially have to talk to get your outcome if you're tracking it. But then when you have a repeatable process, you do it over and over, you actually can increase that percentage. So anyway, I think we went pretty deep today, Elysia, which was, important for us. But the ultimate thing here is that using this survey, and this is just one example in the app that we've, put some of these first and second level questions in here, but it sets you up to be able to not just gather intel, because that's what we've talked about in the past. Yes, it lets me learn a little bit about Elysia if she's my potential realtor partner, referral partner. But more than that is that it's starting to direct her mind. And we said before, if you want to get somebody's attention, you got to be authentic, cut through the noise of every other marketing piece of information that's just being thrown at them. So don't throw information at them, ask questions and let them be involved in the conversation with you, and take it down in layers instead of throwing it all at once. So Elysia, I'll turn it over to you to close this out.
Yeah, thanks, Rocco. It's just so important to realize that there is actual psychology behind sales. It's proven over and over again. Sales is not a new concept. And why on earth would anybody recreate the wheel when we've done all the hard work and given you the easy button through the app?
We keep going back to that easy button. It was awesome to be with that. Thanks for checking us out, and we'll be back with another video really soon. Okay, thanks everybody.
Thanks, everybody.